worship during the pandemic.
Stay home and keep your body healthy.
Plus, a local business applies new demands.
It's really helped keep morale up and also keep our business running.
And a healthcare expert weighs in on gloves in public.
For the majority of people, you end up with situations like this.
Hello and welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Tony Paniagua, filling in for Lorraine Rivera. Thanks for joining us. Options for shopping, dining in, and exercise have expanded in recent weeks. But for the faithful, worship has largely been constrained to their homes. Back in March, many churches and religious institutions chose to suspend in-person services after the White House recommended gatherings no larger than 10 people. Now, like so many others, faith leaders have the task of deciding when it's safe to reopen their doors. The Catholic Diocese of Phoenix took some initial steps. At St. Mary's Church in Chandler on a Tuesday morning, about 24 people gathered for Mass. Scattered across the pews that could normally seat hundreds, represented here by photos of members of the congregation, reduced capacity is part of the church's reopening strategy. Other precautions include requiring masks for people ages 3 and up. Services resumed here the previous weekend.
This plan will gradually restore parish life, but it will not be a process that happens overnight.
By which you have redeemed us.
Earlier this month, Phoenix Bishop Thomas Olmsted said pastors could celebrate Mass publicly with limited attendance and frequent sanitizing. The diocese also issued safety guidelines for parishioners that recommend they stay home if they have recently traveled or feel sick. The Diocese of Tucson is moving in a similar direction. An update on its website says by the end of the month, pastors can petition the bishop for permission to offer public Mass with basic safety protocols in place.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu
Across all religions, efforts to bring people together are happening gradually. And in the meantime, celebrations have been canceled, including the culmination of Ramadan, a time of spiritual reflection and fasting from dawn to sunset for a month. This year, Ramadan ends on Saturday, May 23rd, and any other year, the following day would bring hundreds of people together at the Muslim Community Center of Tucson. But the mosque will remain closed. It's a difficult decision that we discussed with Imam Wathek Al-Obeidi.
I miss our community, because every month here we have every day, more than 400, 500 person, they come together and eat with each other, breakfast with each other, without any, this is rich man, or this is poor man, or this is doctor, or this is farmer. No, all of them, they are equal, because all of them, they came with the same heart. All of them, they came for worship God alone.
And what is your congregation saying about the coronavirus? How is it impacting them personally and spiritually?
We pray every Friday at 1 o'clock, example. And I told you, more than 400 to 500 person, they pray here in the masjid. But now, no one except me. When we knew about this pandemic, we sent announcement, and I gave a ceremony last khutbah in March, and I told my community, please start from now, don't shake, don't hug, don't kiss, and maybe next Friday we'll not pray here because we have big pandemic, and we don't want this reflection come to other human beings. And stay, if you want, protect yourself, your family, your community, stay in your home and keep your body healthy.
Much like other houses of worship, including churches and synagogues, the Muslim Community Center transitioned to offer prayer online.
Without reflect, will not get any reward.
Any idea when you will return to having typical normal services on Fridays?
We did not give this decision until we will see what will be happening, because the region is continue about the coronavirus.
You had somebody who passed away from coronavirus?
Yes. One brother, his age like 86 years old, and was very difficult actually with me and with my group, and I'm very sad because also his family did not join us when we buried him. You know, I told them, please do not join us, because I want to protect this community, because if anyone gets this virus without any protection. And also we have one brother, he has company about the sanitizer and the mask and the gloves. He prepared all our suit should protect ourselves when we make a funeral with this brother.
Are your members concerned? Are they worried? Are they expressing fear? What are they telling you as their spiritual leader?
Actually, yes. Yani, one brother, he told me, why close the masajid? This is not your house. I told him, yes, this is not my house. But my job for protect you and protect our community, our mosque from this pandemic. This pandemic is not a joke.
And moving forward, what is your message to the members of your mosque and the community at large for the next few weeks or months? What would you like them to know?
To all brothers and sisters, I want to say, please stay home and keep your body healthy. And I ask God, protect ourselves, our communities, our families from this pandemic coronavirus. Thank you so much. And also, God bless you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
During the pandemic, we've checked in with local businesses about how they're overcoming adversity. This week, we visit two companies that have operated for more than a century combined in Tucson. We're learning how they're adapting to changing demands. Reproductions Incorporated has been part of the Tucson business scene for more than 60 years. Like many other companies that have lasted so long, employees are used to dealing with challenges: recessions, changing trends, rising costs. But an unexpected threat in the form of a dangerous and invisible virus?
No, absolutely not. Being at Repro for 21 years has been fantastic. We're really like a family, and there's something different to do every day. And we're just really, really blessed that we can still come to work every day and do what we love doing.
While some companies had to shut their doors over COVID-19, printing establishments were considered essential, and the coronavirus created opportunities.
We do lots of stuff. I mean, we print business cards all the way up to, custom wallpaper. The COVID signage particularly that we've been printing has been for the construction industry. They're very proactive about trying to get up the signage they need to make sure that everybody's safe at their sites, and we've taken advantage of that. It's been great.
In addition to printing new signs about COVID-19 for construction companies and others, Reproductions also has the capacity to produce clear plexiglass panels. They are being installed in businesses such as restaurants, nail salons, and schools.
It's been able to keep us busy. They're definitely down, but it's really helped keep morale up and also keep our business running.
In the past few weeks, workers have taken dozens of orders. Future purchases also look promising.
It's just been word of mouth. We just put some at our front counter, and as people are coming in, they're noticing them and asking if they can have them. And so we started putting them into production. And it's helped quite a bit. I mean, we are very busy still doing lots of other stuff, but this has really caught on. It's great.
But it hasn't all been rosy. Business overall has dropped compared to earlier this year, and some of the 23 full-time employees are working fewer hours. The company has also reduced some of its customer hours and instituted new practices.
And we have, physical distancing guidelines up at the front counter. We're not an open shop right now where people can wander back and talk to our operators, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to open up again.
Meantime, adaptation and creativity remain vital skills at this facility, and not just only when it comes to printing.
When we couldn't buy hand sanitizer anymore, we have some industrious people here who did a little Google search and found out that we can make hand sanitizer with alcohol and witch hazel. And we had alcohol for cleaning machines here already, so we put together some alcohol and witch hazel hand sanitizer, and we've been using it for ourselves, but also letting our customers use it when they're here.
And that's not being packaged for sale?
No, that's just for our own use.
Is that another idea, perhaps?
Well, perhaps.
Among the hardest hit industries because of COVID-19, retail sales nationwide plunged more than 21% in April compared to last year. Longtime retailer Sam Levitt started 2020 on a high note, but had to hit the brakes in March and closed for the month of April. The furniture company's origins in Tucson date back more than 65 years. Today, it remains locally owned by the Levitts family. Over the decades, it survived multiple recessions, grew to 6 locations, and currently employs more than 500 people. But the pandemic presented challenges unseen until now and has changed how the company does business, as we heard from CEO and President Sam Levitts.
In March, we had 628 staff members. And we furloughed about 550 of those once we had to shut down. And then more recently, we have brought back 500. So we are now, almost fully staffed.
Levitt says some former employees got new jobs or moved during the store's closures. Since reopening this month, the company reduced hours, stepped up cleaning protocols, and now requires masks for staff and customers.
Of which, of course, I just took mine off for this interview.
A new feature on its website lets customers schedule appointments to meet with a sales rep when fewer people are in the building.
Welcome to Sam Levitt's. Do you have an appointment with us today?
You mentioned you were having a great year pre-COVID, pre-coronavirus. What kind of an economic impact approximately has the closure meant because of March and April on the company?
Well, we figured that we were going to reopen at probably about 50% of where we were, and we're doing a little better than that. So thanks to the shoppers in Tucson, they're come out and supporting us, and we appreciate that a lot. Our business is moving along very nicely, and we hope that we may get back to normal by the end of the year or sometime in the first quarter of next year.
I don't know if it's a trade secret, but approximately how much money are we talking about every year or every month? Let's say March and April, approximately.
Last year we had a record year, and we reached $100 million in sales, all of our stores, and we hope that we get somewhere back to that rate by the end of this year, but we're not seeing that yet.
All the companies we've spoken to have talked about the economic impact, but also the emotional impact that it has had on them personally and on their employees. What would you like to say about that?
Well, I can just say that it has been pretty tough for everybody that has been, especially in our company. We have a lot of people, a lot of staff that's been here 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, and without any kind of disruption like that.
Never seen anything like it. I mean, it was amazing. It was devastating.
Paul Stingley came to Sam Levitt's more than 40 years ago in 1977. He now serves as corporate vice president of sales.
I sold on the floor for the first 13 years and then got into management and loved that as well, and been doing this since.
What are people telling you? What are your former employees telling you now that they're back?
Oh, they're ecstatic. They were a lot better employees than they were before, seemed like, because they're happier and appreciate the company for calling them back, and they're just excited to get their job back.
Knowing that the coronavirus is still a present threat, Stingley says the company is looking at growing its online sales.
A lot of online sales have really grown since we've been open, and during that time we were closed as well.
Stingley also says customers are responding well to the store's new appointment system. Charles Reeves scheduled his visit before making the trip from his home in Avro Valley.
We're upgrading a love seat. We had one that was worn out, and it was time to replace it, so that's why we came in today. Of course, I had to make an appointment, and I'm wearing this because they supplied it, but yeah, and we bought it. Getting ready to take it home.
Long term, do you think there are any solutions, any practices that will perhaps change permanently?
I do think there's going to be some things that will change permanently. I think the sanitizing of a retail store with as much square footage as we have is probably never going to go away. I believe that the hours of operation could change permanently as far as the number of hours that we're open. Our most important process that we are concerned about is our staff and our customer safety. And we're going to do everything above and beyond what is called for to make sure that that happens.
The CARES Act injected billions in funding for loans provided by the Small Business Administration, or the SBA for short. We got clarification on the assistance available and what applicants should keep in mind from Shivani Dubey, Deputy District Director of the SBA in Arizona.
So nationally, as well as in Arizona and Southern Arizona, we obviously are very familiar and are working through the Paycheck Protection Program. In Arizona, we've got 72,000 businesses that have received the PPP loan, and that's to the tune of $8.5 billion. And that's since the inception of the first round of PPP funding. So that's Arizona numbers. We don't have the breakdown of the local, markets by congressional district at this time, but nationally, we still have about $100 billion in funding left. So we've now given out money to over 4 million small businesses.
PPP loans come with strings attached. The SBA will fully forgive loans if in 8 weeks employers spend at least 75% of the funds on payroll, with the rest going toward rent, mortgage interest, or utilities. According to reports, some businesses that temporarily closed and received PPP loans are worried that deviating from those terms in order to cover more urgent expenses puts them at risk of being forced to pay back a portion.
The Paycheck Protection Program was really designed around keeping people whole and keeping their payroll intact and allowing people to have an income, and it wasn't really taking these shutdown factors into account, nor was it intended to do that, honestly. So at this point where you are, I think there's a lot of discussion around those things because the reality of it is different. And as the COVID environment is very dynamic, things are changing all the time. So as the new legislation and things that are still on the Hill are being looked at, there'll be constant discussion about this very point.
And when applying for loans or programs, should businesses be very careful with certain steps along the way? In other words, should they read the fine print before they go ahead and apply for these services?
Very much so. The fine print is important on the certifications in both programs, and then the PPP loan, because you need to understand what's going to be forgiven and what's not going to be forgiven. It's important to understand what you're signing up for because the details are a little bit confusing at times when you're looking at trying to figure out, well, if the forgiveness part doesn't happen, it turns into a 1% loan and you have 2 years to pay that back. So ultimately, there's room for discussion as far as what's in there. But you want to understand if you put in 10 employees to get that PPP loan, then you've hired back 10 employees to keep the forgiveness model clean. So yes, there's definitely those pieces.
And how does your agency define a small business, and then who is eligible for benefits?
Yes, thank you. The small business definition, it's pretty much the general answer is 500 employees or less is the general definition. On the PPP side, we have an alternative size definition, or you could be defined by your industry code and your revenues as a result of that industry code. So we do allow some provisions on PPP that are a little different than our normal ones, which are looking at if you're a franchise industry, business, and you've got the NAICS code of 7.2, which is a food and concessions type of industry code. That one, as long as each location has 500 or less employees, they could be considered small, even if you have multiple locations. So there's a different, sort of variances on the small definition, but generally speaking, 500 employees or less. On the economic injury disaster loan side, same thing, we look at that. And on both programs, sole proprietors and independent contractors, they are eligible as well.
Any idea on how many organizations, how many small businesses have asked for assistance so far?
At this point on our economic injury disaster loan, we've got 4,000 approved, 4,600 or so approved as of a couple of days ago for the economic injury disaster loan. And on that side, the EIDL loan, it basically allows for a 3.75% interest rate over a 30-year term. And there's no repayment on that for the first 12 months. So ultimately, that's a popular loan program, and it's very helpful because it's not centered around the payroll alone. You can use it for other capital costs and other working capital needs. So that program is the one that is a popular one indeed. And it is now, if you applied before April 15th, we're getting through all those applications currently. We closed it to additional businesses applying after April 15th, unless you're an agricultural business.
And moving forward, if you could relay one major message to small businesses here in the state of Arizona, what would that be?
I would say that Arizona small businesses embody the American small business spirit, which is to be resilient and to persist and to carry on. We understand that these times are difficult, and we appreciate that they are committed to getting through this. We have local counseling services through the Arizona Small Business Development Center. I definitely recommend that you take advantage of those free counseling services that are being offered virtually, so that you can understand you're not alone in this small business recovery. We're here to help with that. SBA.gov/AZ is where you can find all of our local resources. We have newsletters that we're sending out. We have webinars that we're conducting. Everybody's on deck to make sure that we can get this recovery started. So thank you so much.
Shivani Dubey, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
As you've heard, from businesses to churches, face masks are now required in many places. There's a right way to wear coverings. We got insight into the proper protocols for masks and other PPE from Brandy Anderson, the Infection Prevention Director at Banner University Medical Center, Tucson. And we're talking about masks, people wearing masks in basically closed enclosures where there's a lot of contact between people, or could potentially be contact between a lot of people.
Yeah, so masks are very helpful when you cannot maintain social distancing. So when you cannot be more than 6 feet away from others, that's the best time to mask. Now, there are some people that are not good candidates for masking. Those would be children under 2, anyone with severe respiratory issues, or anybody that's unconscious and cannot remove the mask themselves.
So for a typical errand, for example, if I were to go to the supermarket and I'd want to wear a mask, that's one thing. But what about gloves? Do you think it would be necessary for just the average shopper to wear gloves in a setting like a supermarket?
No, I don't. And actually, I wanted to show you a demonstration if you have a second.
Sure.
So I'm going to put on gloves. So these are just normal gloves. And I want you to think of this red paint as germs. So I'm going to touch the red paint with my gloves. And now I'm going to grab my cell phone, which I see people doing often when they're in the store. Those shopping apps are great for scanning barcodes and getting deals. So then what happens is you grab your phone and then you contaminate it with the germs. So it's really important that we don't touch any of our personal items when we have our gloves on. So between touching things, if you choose to use gloves, make sure that if you're going to touch your face or any of your personal items like your cell phone, your keys, your purse, your wallet, that your gloves have been removed and you've washed your hands.
And it would seem difficult to imagine a scenario where somebody wearing gloves is not going to be touching their personal items. For example, if they go to the cashier to pay, they're going to reach into their wallet, into their purse, they're going to grab their car keys afterwards and so on, if they're wearing gloves.
Exactly. I do not recommend wearing gloves for most people. Like I said, you may want to talk to your provider to see if that's something that you should personally personally be doing based on your own personal risk. But for the majority of people, you end up with situations like this.
Are there any other common missteps or things that get overlooked, proper protocols when it comes to masks or gloves?
Yeah, so we talked about gloves. To add in for masking, the safest way to put your mask on is by touching what we call the ear loops. These are the parts that hold the mask up onto your face. Some people have straps, or some people have ties. I made this mask at home, and it just has hair ties as my ear loops. And so the best way to do it is to grab the ear loops or ties and put it on like this. Make sure that you have a good fit over your nose, that you completely cover your nose and your mouth. Some missteps that I see happening are people only wearing it to cover their mouth and not their nose. So that puts you vulnerable to inhale any kind of respiratory droplets. The other thing I see happening is people wear their mask under their chin. So the way that you grab the mask, most people grab the mask to pull it under their chin, is from here. And we know that this part of the mask could potentially be contaminated with droplets. What you've then done is contaminated your hands. Imagine that red paint is on my hand, and everything I touch after I pull my mask down and back up could potentially get me sick because it's now contaminated as well.
What do you know about the availability of masks and gloves? If somebody wants to purchase one, quote, professionally made instead of trying to make something at home, are they available? Are they expensive? Can people find them right now?
You know, PPE across the globe is very hard to find, healthcare grade PPE, and all of the people that really need that PPE are using it to take care of very sick people. So CDC guidance actually does not recommend that we use healthcare grade masks. They actually encourage cloth masks for general public to use. And there's lots of resources out there on how to make your own out of things that you have laying around your house already.
Would you like to comment about the fact that some people are getting upset about others who are wearing masks, or getting upset at others who are not wearing masks?
The only way we're going to prevent another surge in our cases and locally and across our state and nation is to work together. So none of these protections that we've talked about alone will keep you 100% safe. They all really work together to add layers of protection. And when we stop doing one of those elements, like not masking when we're out in public, then we're putting ourselves at risk by persons that could be sick around us that may not know they're sick yet and share their infection with us. Or we could be spreading it if we're sick and don't know it ourselves yet, to other people that are very immunosuppressed, like cancer patients or transplant patients.
That's all for now. Thanks for joining us. To get in touch, visit us on social media or send an email to Arizona360@azpm.org and let us know what you think. We're taking a break and we'll be off next Friday. Until then, have a safe Memorial Day weekend.